Have you ever felt the ground vanish beneath your feet just because you needed 3 days to bury the person who gave you life? Take a deep breath and imagine. It's 7 a.m. in New York, traffic already roaring through the streets as you hold your coffee, now lukewarm. In your pocket, your phone vibrates for the third time. It's the notification I feared most, an email from my boss. 3 days earlier, my bereavement leave request for my mother's funeral had been approved without issue. 3 whole days to shut my eyes to the world and mourn the void she left behind. But there, on that tiny screen, the message made no mention of empathy or condolences. In cold, hard letters it read, "We need people who prioritize work. Your position has been terminated." My throat knotted, so tight, I had to lean on the marble counter of the cafe. The menu beside me looked like a catalog of dreams I could no longer taste. It was as if, in the blink of an eye, my worth, my sleepless nights, my met goals, had been reduced to nothing. Breathe in slowly. Put yourself in my shoes. The weight of the tie, the weight of grief slipping through your fingers, and now, the weight of a perfunctory professional farewell. The same company where I delivered weekend reports suddenly had no ground beneath it. My chest pounded, my voice faltered as I told my coworker I'd have another coffee. And it was in that disconcerting silence that everything began to change. Close your eyes for a second and remember the last time you held the hand of someone you loved, felt their warmth and the certainty that everything would be okay, until it wasn't. That's what flooded my mind as I fought to keep tears from falling onto the cafe counter. I went back to my tiny Manhattan apartment where I lived alone. The streets outside buzzed with the hurry of thousands, but inside my small refuge, the silence was deafening. On the table still sat the funeral flower arrangement, white wisteria I had sworn never to touch again. Each drooping petal was a reminder that, day by day, it all grew more distant, less real. As my legs trembled, a steady voice inside me woke up. "Emily, bear this weight." I stood, grabbed my executive bag, the same one holding the notes and strategies that led me to helm million-dollar projects, and faced the mirror. My gaze was a tunnel of emptiness, but there was something else there, a spark of indignation. On the way to the office, I tried to calm myself by counting to 10, but each step echoed, "You're worthless without your job." The email's words spun in my head like a scratched record. When I reached the lobby, the guard already knew my name. The card slid easily into the reader, but I knew that card no longer belonged to me. Without saying a word, I walked to my desk, an island of photos, mugs, and reminders of afternoons when my mother would call just to say, "I love you." In minutes, I packed every keepsake into a trembling cardboard box. Coworkers passed by, eyes averted. There was nothing to say. Dignity spoke for me. And there, clutching the box to my chest, I felt for the first time that fierce silence had a purpose. It was the prelude to something much bigger, something that no one, not even my former boss, could silence. The days that followed blurred into mornings without deadlines and sleepless nights, replaying every syllable of that email. Each dawn, I stupidly waited for a welcome back call, even though I knew it would never come. My steps lost direction. I wandered aimlessly through the Lower East Side, trying to see past my own grief and the firing that had stolen even my right to exist in that office. I watched Mexican soap operas on TV, tried to learn crochet via YouTube, and volunteered at an animal shelter, anything to distract from the anguish. But whenever someone asked, "So, what about the job?" I'd clutch my phone, thumb trembling, and change the subject. It felt like carrying a heavy secret in my chest. I no longer work there. On the Wednesday, 7 days after the burial and the firing, my inbox was empty, my messaging app silent. Even my friends, worried, stopped asking, "How are you?" I had no answer. I even missed complaining about my boss. Any emotion was better than that black hole of indifference. Then, Thursday afternoon, it happened. I was sorting papers at home, bills, overdue notices, the eviction warning that had arrived by mail, when the phone rang. The number wasn't unfamiliar, but I had muted the office notifications. Even so, I answered. "Hello? Emily? It's Carla, regional manager." I need to talk to you. My heart raced. The world spun for a second. Carla was always strict, but she'd never beg me for anything. Look, just hear me out. We're on the brink of collapse without you. Our biggest clients are threatening to pull their contracts. Please come back. Her voice trembled almost as much as mine. And in that moment, something inside me awoke. The blend of pain and outrage, the bittersweet taste of being underestimated. I hit mute in my mind, took a deep breath, and whispered, as if to myself, "The silence that expelled me can now bring this company to its knees." And that's when the real game began. I silenced my phone and sat at my kitchen table, surrounded by the reports I'd backed up personally, proposals, emails, performance spreadsheets. Each document told the real story. Deadlines met at the last minute. Crises I'd resolved because I'd been on the project from day one. "Breathe, Emily," I told myself softly, as if I needed to hear it to believe the plan forming. I opened the corporate HR email and, instead of accusations, I chose cold facts. I attached the full leave request history, my direct manager's approvals, metrics showing a 40% productivity drop after my departure, and complaints from our top 5 clients. All laid out in one objective email, no emotion, because numbers carry more weight than resentment. After hitting send, adrenaline surged. In the silence of my living room, I pictured the impact. Bosses scrambling to explain to HR why they'd cut off the right arm that kept the machine running. It was my fierce silence, the cleanest revenge I could devise. 2 hours later, I saw the read receipt. And within 48 hours, the summons arrived. "We need to speak urgently. Corporate HR wants to schedule a meeting." Then it hit me. I'd flipped the script without raising my voice, letting results and accountability speak for me. When I entered the virtual conference room, faces were tense, and eyes that once ignored me now sought me out in every slide. For the first time since that cruel email, I felt genuine power, not the power to trample others, but to show that respect is earned through competence and integrity. The next week, I received an offer to lead a new department in San Francisco, with the autonomy to build my own team. I said yes, of course, with a bittersweet taste. I knew justice came at a high price, and my mother wouldn't be there to see this victory. Yet in that moment, I grasped something crucial. Fighting for your worth doesn't always make noise. Sometimes, silence makes all the difference. Months later, unpacking my last belongings in the San Francisco office, I felt that butterfly in the stomach thrill of starting from scratch. Only this time, it was different. There was no longer the burden of proving my value. Here, every nod of recognition carried respect, not pity. I remember getting a message from Carla, now full of smiling emojis, saying, "You saved us twice, first by leading the projects, then by showing everyone dignity matters as much as results." It punched me right in the heart. Because deep down, I wasn't fighting just for my career. I was fighting for the right to be treated with humanity. That's why I share this story today. Maybe you felt discarded in a moment of fragility, underestimated when you needed compassion most. Maybe, like me, you held back tears in front of others, feeling silence weigh down like a sentence. I want you to know, silence can be your most powerful weapon. Not every retaliation needs a scream. Sometimes, letting numbers and facts speak for you is the cleanest form of justice. So if you've ever received a cold no when you sought empathy, take a deep breath now and repeat after me. My worth is non-negotiable. And remember, when your dignity is ignored, you don't need to shout to be heard. Just let your competence and the truth you carry echo louder than any impersonal email. Today, 6 months later, I sit on my San Francisco balcony, the afternoon sun dancing over the bay waters. I still feel that flutter in my stomach whenever I think about how I got here. It wasn't luck, it was courage disguised as silence. I close my eyes and recall the last time I spoke with my mother on the phone. She said in her sweet voice, "Don't forget who you are, my daughter." Today, I carry every piece of her advice in my leadership agenda. Empathy as my compass, assertiveness as my mainsail. At the office, I've built a team too united to rely on a single manager. Here, Everyone knows the past we carry and the respect we pledge to give, because we learned that personal tragedies aren't office downtime, but part of our humanity. Last week, I got an email from a former colleague. You showed us that dignity drives results. Thank you for not yelling, but for speaking truth with facts. My chest warmed. I realized the lesson wasn't just for the company, but for myself. When you refuse to be invisible, you give a voice to those who thought silence was weakness. So when that doubt creeps in, should I speak up now? Remember what we've learned together. Inhale deeply, count to 3, and choose your most powerful weapon, the truth. Because in the end, no one can fire your courage.